Hello everybody, I am Chef Ben, and this is episode 1 of Dinner with Ben, brought to you by Ashworks Cutting Boards and T North Carbonated Iced Tea. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much everybody for watching. Here's how this is going to work. So I'm going to walk you step by step through making dinner. If you're here, you probably already have all of the ingredients kind of ready to go, which is awesome. If you have any questions, I can see them, so I can answer them live as we go. And there's going to be a little bit of space in the middle when the chicken and the potatoes are in the oven, so we'll do kind of a Q&A there as well. But again, if you have questions throughout, please don't hesitate to ask, or if I'm going too fast, just ask me to slow down. So the very first thing that we need to do is turn our oven on. So we're going to pop the oven on to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's anything in your kitchen like it is in mine, it's probably already really hot, but we're going to turn the oven on anyway because we're going to cook the chicken. So, oven on to 400. Okay, so that's going to take about 10 minutes to heat up or so. In the meantime, we're going to get our potatoes started. So what we're going to do with our potatoes is we're going to take them. I have these really nice local red fingerling potatoes. Any kind of baby potato will work for this. And what we're going to do is any of the bigger ones like this, we're just going to cut them in half. And any of the smaller ones like this, we're going to leave them whole. And then we're just going to put them in a pot. Okay, so if you want to start doing that, and again, if I'm going too fast or if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. That's what I'm here for. So, what we're going to do is we're going to start these in cold water. So the way this is going to work, we're going to get them all cut up. We're going to put them in the pot. We're going to cover them with cold water. We're going to bring them to a boil. And as soon as they come to a boil, we're going to stop it. We're going to dump the water out. We're going to toss them with olive oil and rosemary. And then we're going to put them in the oven. So what that's going to do is it's going to start to cook them. But then it's not going to cook them all the way through, so they go in the oven and finish that way. And that way they get nice and crispy, but they don't get overcooked because you've already started the cooking process, which is very nice. Any questions so far, or am I doing a good job? I hope so. Okay, so again, whatever potatoes you have will work for this, preferably a baby potato. This also works really well for hash browns in the morning or anything like that. So I just have some small ones here. And again, I have my potatoes in the pot. That, and now I'm just going to cover them with cold water. Make sure it's cold water. If you put hot water on this, it's going to kind of mess up the cooking time. So start with cold water. And if you have a white potato, these fingerlings are fairly waxy, so there's not too much starch coming out of them. But if you have a white potato, make sure to give it a rinse and get some of that extra starch out of it. And all we're doing, I only have about this much water over the potatoes in here. You don't need to go crazy. You don't need to fill your pot all the way to the top. Just enough to really cover them by about ½ inch. I'm just going to pop that on the burner. And we're going to season the water with salt. This is kosher salt. If you're using table salt, be careful. The iodized table salt doesn't dissolve at the same rate as kosher salt or sea salt. So you can get really, really salty potatoes, and it has kind of a harsh flavor. If you're using kosher salt or sea salt, just put it in, let it sit for a second, and taste. It should taste salty like the ocean. Really, that's what you're looking for. So, tastes like the ocean. Perfect. So by the time those are done boiling, the oven should probably be nice and hot. Now, in the meantime, we're going to get our chicken ready to go. And we are going to get our rosemary ready to go. Sorry if I pause for a second. I'm just trying to read the comments. I don't want to miss anything. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Hi, everybody from East Preston. Thank you so much for the flowers. I meant to put them over there. I forgot. Sorry. But thank you. I love them. Okay. So we have... Let's start with our rosemary, and then we'll set that aside. This will be for the potatoes. Now I know that at least one of you, Kat, is it you I think that couldn't get either rosemary or thyme? It's fine. If you're using one of the others to substitute here, you can chop it up. It really doesn't matter. And you can use any kind of hard herb for this. So all I'm doing here with the rosemary is just kind of grabbing it on the top, pulling down, and just pulling all those needles off. Nothing too fancy. And I'm only going to use about 2 sprigs here. 2 nice sized sprigs. So this, by the time it's chopped up, is going to give me about a tablespoon of rosemary. Okay. So, while you're doing that, I'm going to explain what we're going to do with our knives here. I've seen people do some really foolish things with knives, and it breaks my heart a little. So I'm going to give you a really quick knife tutorial before we start into this rosemary. First of all, people will often hold the knife way back here as if they're running away from the blade. The closer on the blade, or the higher up on the blade you hold, the more comfortable the knife is and the more control you have. So if you can see this, if I hold the knife back here, the knife's going to rock around in my hand. If I hold it up here, I like to pinch it between my thumb and my index finger like that, and then wrap my fingers around the back. So if you hold it like that in a nice firm grip, the knife's not going anywhere. You have complete control over it. And very often when I tell people this, they'll start off this way, but then for whatever reason their index finger ends up here, and by the end of it they're holding the knife way up here, which is obviously not what you want to do. So just thumb and index finger, pinch between the blade just in a nice loose grip, and then just wrap your fingers around nice and gently. Okay? You don't need a death grip on the knife. Just be careful with it. Your other hand, we're going to take our fingers and we're going to curl them, just like that. They're going to go flat on the board. Don't tuck your knuckles under like that. You're not trying to hold your knuckles down. You want your fingertips on the board and kind of curled slightly back. And this is where people get scared, very often. You want the knife in contact with your fingers. So the reason being, if the knife is in contact with my fingers, my thumb is behind, and my fingers are curled back, and the knife is in contact, I always know where my fingers are in relation to the blade. Okay? So if I have my fingers flat, and my knife is not in contact with them, say they're way back here, and my knife's here, and I'm chopping, and I get distracted, I don't know where the blade is in relation to my fingers. And it's way too easy to slip and cut yourself. And when you cut yourself like that, you're going to lose a fingertip or it's going to be a really bad cut. Now, when the blade is in contact, and I mean the flat edge of the blade is in contact with your fingers, A, you always know where the blade is. B, you're much less likely to have a bad cut just because of the way you're holding your hand. And I know it takes a lot of practice. Take your time with it. Don't try and go as fast as I do. I've been doing this a very long time. But really, keep that contact. Now, you may, I'll be completely honest with you, you may get a little nick on this first knuckle. It'll just be a tiny nick, and it is so much better than losing your whole fingertip. I promise you that. So, we're just going to chop this up. It doesn't have to be super fine or anything like that. We're just going to cut it up. And now that we have it kind of broken up into smaller pieces, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold in that grip again, the thumb and index finger, but I'm not really going to wrap my fingers tightly here. I'm going to leave them fairly loose or even up. And you're going to find the counterbalance point. So balance and counterbalance. It's not down here. Okay? A lot of people will automatically put their fingers way down here. Problem is that it's very easy for your finger to slip under the blade that way. Keep it up here about 1.5 inches, 2 inches up the blade. And then all we're going to do is rock the knife. So the tip isn't coming off the board, it's just going up and down like this. It takes way less force than going like this. You make way less of a mess. It's way more comfortable, it's way easier on your arm. And when you get practiced at it, you can go really, really fast, and it looks really, really cool. And sounds kind of cool too. See, now just showing off and making a giant mess, but that's okay. So that's really all we need for the potatoes, other than some salt and pepper. So they're almost about to boil. So in the meantime, we'll set that aside and we'll get ready for our chicken. Are there any questions? You know, cat dried is fine. Perfect. So, onion. There's a few different things we can do here. We're just going to leave it in fair-sized chunks, or we can slice it. Actually, we'll dice it, just because I think it's important to know this. So what we're going to do, the onion has a top and a bottom, right? So this is the top. It's the part that the greens come out and push out of the ground. This is the bottom. It's where the roots come out. We're going to cut the top off. Okay? So top is off. And I know to some of you this may seem foolish, but I know there's a lot of people out there who this will benefit, so I'm going to go through it. So we got the top off, and we're going to lay the onion flat. And now we're going to cut right down through the middle of the onion through the root. So now we have 2 halves of the onion with the root still on it. Okay? And this makes the onion much easier to peel. So we're going to peel it. Again, if you need me to slow down or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. That's what I'm here for. And I move my compost bin. Okay, so we have our 2 half onions and they're peeled, right? And we still have the root on. So the reason we left the root on our onion is so that when we dice it, it stays together. So when you do this, what I'm about to show you, it's very important that you keep your knife as flat as you can. Try not to curve it down, definitely try not to curve it up, and try not to have it like pivoted kind of down like that or up like that. Try and keep it as flat as you can, and I find it helps if you have your hand hanging off your cutting board. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to keep our hand flat like this. It's very important that you don't grab the onion like this. So what we're going to do, we're going to hold our hand, and I'm not putting any pressure on the onion, I'm just holding it in place, and I'm not putting any pressure on my knife, I'm just gliding it through. Okay? So all I'm going to do is about 1 centimeter up the onion. I'm just going to start slicing, and again my knife is very, very flat, and I'm not going to slice all the way through. So you can see it's cut like that, but it's still completely intact. And I'm going to make one more of those slices, about 1 centimeter up from that. And again, don't put your fingers down. And don't force your knife. If you force it and you have your fingers down, your knife's going to slip and it's going to hurt a lot. So again, we're not putting any force on the onion. Now we have 3 onion slices and it's all still connected. So now what we're going to do, is everybody there? Hi Sherry. So now we're going to face the root away from us and we're going to take the tip of our knife and we're going to cut down. Now it's very important you don't cut through the root because you want, again, to keep the onion intact. Right? So we're going to do, again, about 1 centimeter slices. And so my onion is fully intact. Right? And now, if you're right-handed, you want the root to be pointing to your left. And if you're left-handed, you want the root to be pointing to your right. All we're going to do is about 1 centimeter. We're going to make slices straight down. And what that gives us is perfectly even, perfectly diced onion. Right? So it takes practice. I know that some of you, your onions are probably falling apart. It's perfectly normal. It just takes practice and knowing where to cut. So we have 2 halves, so we'll do it on the other side. And when you get to the root end, don't throw that away. Just tilt it over so it's flat on your board. And we're going to cut through, cut through, cut through, and then all we're wasting is this little tiny bit of root. That's it. So now we'll do that again with this second piece of onion. And keep an eye on your potatoes. If they start to boil, then drain them. Yours may take a little less time than mine or a little longer. Mine are almost boiling. So as soon as they start to boil, dump them in a colander in the sink. Now again, flat knife, no pressure down, and hand flat. And we're just going to slice, and again, it's really important that your knife is flat when you're doing this and that you're not putting any pressure. So we have our 3 slices. Horizontally, we're going to turn the onion so the root is facing away from us. And then the tip of our blade is going to go down, but not all the way through the root. It's going all the way to the board, but not all the way through the root. Very important. And then again, we dice. Easy peasy, right? Hopefully everybody still has their fingers. I really hope you guys aren't not asking questions because you've all cut your fingers off already. That would be very bad for me, I feel like. I'm joking, I'm sure no one's cut their fingers. Okay, so you should all have some kind of roasting pan. We are preparing chicken dish with roasted potatoes and spinach salad. So if you have a roasting pan, which you should, we're just going to take our onions and pop them right in the bottom. Spread them out nice and evenly. Okay. Okay, my potatoes are boiling, so I'm going to drain them. If yours aren't boiling, that's fine. Just leave them on until they do. Now I'm just going to pour them out. We're just going to let those stay in the sink for a minute or two. Let that steam kind of dry some of that liquid off of them. We don't want to toss them with olive oil when they're wet. We want to let them sit for a minute. So in the meantime, we're going to take some garlic, like 2 cloves. Now, I have my 2 cloves of garlic and they still have the peels on them. So all I'm going to do is cut the root end off. There's, again, just like the onion, there's 2 ends. There's the root end and then there's the part where the greens come out of. We're just going to cut the root off of both of these cloves of garlic. Okay, so the root is off. Then we're going to take the flat edge of our knife, like just that flat part, and put it on the garlic. It's very important that you don't smash your hand down on this, because if it slips, you're going to get caught on the blade. Just like giving CPR, you're going to put your hand down and then just a quick push. But make sure the blade is pointing away from you. If it's towards you and you do that and your hand slips, you're going to cut your palm really bad. So just again, it's just that quick motion down. Just like that. And now the peel will come right off the garlic. Very simply. Just like that. And now because we're roasting this, we're not going to chop this garlic, we're just going to throw them in just like that. Okay? Now we're going to go to the potatoes. Just need a bowl. So if you have your potatoes, you can look at them, you can feel them, they're still really hard. That's okay. That's what we want. What we're going to do is just take our rosemary, all of it. Like I said, it should be about a tablespoon. And we're going to put that in with our potatoes. We're also going to take some pepper. If you don't have a grinder, like if you have a shaker, you want a good amount of pepper. Obviously season it to your taste. If you don't like a lot of pepper, don't use a lot of pepper. I like quite a bit. But I would say just like a nice big pinch, or put it in the palm of your hand. Let's see. This is how you cook without measuring spoons. So if you put it in the palm of your hand, and you kind of curl your palm up, just through it. It should just kind of fill that center part. But I threw mine everywhere. And then we're just going to put a nice big pinch of salt in there. Is everybody... garlic scapes could be used, but they're probably going to just turn to mush, which is actually probably fine. I don't think you'll get the same garlicky flavor, though. Good question, Wendy. Thank you. Okay, so now we have our rosemary, our salt and pepper in there, and we're just going to add a nice amount of olive oil. Now, depending on the olive oil you have, you might want to use different oil. Like if you have like Bertelli or whatever it is, you might find it bitter, which is very common. You can use canola oil or another form of oil if you like, or you can cut them 50-50. I find this olive oil is not bitter at all, so I'm going to use it. and a decent amount, probably about a quarter cup, which I know seems like a lot, but it's what's going to crisp up those potatoes, and olive oil is pretty good for you. And then we're just going to shake them up. Now I have a sheet pan lined with parchment paper. I'm just going to pour the potatoes out. Make sure you get all that seasoning, all that rosemary and everything in there. And we're just going to pop them in the oven. And my racks, I have the top one on the second rack from the top and the bottom one on the second from the bottom. So in the center as much as possible. That's all you need. Does everybody have... Donna, what's wrong? What are you missing? No, the garlic is going in the chicken. The only thing that's in the potatoes is the rosemary, salt, pepper, and olive oil. That's it. I love roasted potatoes too, Jessica. They are one of my favorites. Okay, does everybody have their chicken in the oven? If yes, are there like thumbs up or heart or something so I know we're all here? Another chicken, sorry, the potatoes. Everybody has their potatoes in the oven. Yes? Sure, we'll say yes. Okay. So, thank you. Thank you to the one person. Okay, so we have our onions and our garlic in our roasting pan. Next thing we need is our lemon. Now, we're going to take it, and the first thing we're going to do is just roll it. And what this is going to do is it's going to loosen up all of the kind of cells in the lemon. You don't have to put a lot of force into it. It will explode, which you don't want to happen. So we're just going to cut it in half. That's all. Now, a lot of people out there, or if anybody out here is watching this who has worked with me before, you know that I don't usually cut lemons like this, but for this purpose, it's fine. We're just going to give these a nice big squeeze into here. Don't worry about it if you get some seeds in there, not the end of the world. And we're just going to leave the lemons right in there. That's it. Okay, so now I have some very fresh thyme that a friend of mine gave me. Surprisingly, I couldn't find any at the grocery store. And yours might look different than mine, but that's fine. All we're going to do is we're going to take the back of our knife and just give it a couple of whacks. Remember that your knife is upside down. Don't put your hand down on it. I know it seems foolish, but again, I've seen some foolish things with knives. Then we're just going to throw the thyme right in there. Okay? We're going to bring this up here. And again, a decent amount of olive oil. And 2 bay leaves. Oh, thank you, Wendy. Okay, so it looks beautiful. Smells beautiful. I'm just going to throw some salt and pepper in here. And again, a decent amount of salt and pepper. Okay. And now our chicken. Now, the chicken legs I got were really small. Yours are probably bigger than mine. That's fine. Yours will just take a little longer to cook. And I also have 5 instead of 4, but it really doesn't matter. So all we're going to do is kind of put these in here. Just right in there. And we're just kind of going to move them around, get them coated in the onion and the olive oil and everything. The thyme. Kat, are you asking how I normally cut it or how I cut it for this? For this, I just cut it in half. If you're asking how I normally cut it, I can show you. I have a lemon, an extra one there. Okay. So I have my chicken in there. I'll wash my hands. And then we're going to take some chicken stock. Normally I prefer homemade chicken stock, but you don't always have it. You know, I use chicken stock faster than I can make it. So we're just going to use the store-bought stuff. And I said about 2 cups, but really you only want to come about halfway up your chicken legs. Okay? So whatever that works out to be, it probably will be less than 2 cups. And so what's going to happen when we put this in the oven is the chicken is going to get really nice and tender. That was probably about 1.5 cups that I used. The chicken's going to get really nice and tender because it's going to cook in this liquid and the lemon juice, the chicken stock, the onions and the garlic are going to cook down until they're almost like disintegrating. And the top of the chicken should get nice and roasted. It's not going to get super crispy, but it should get a little bit of color on it, which will be really, really nice, and this is going to smell amazing. And I'm just going to put a little bit more salt and pepper on the chicken itself, and then we're going to pop this in the oven. Now, my legs, again, are fairly small, so they're probably going to take between 35 to 40 minutes. Yours might take a little longer, really depends. I'm going to set a timer for 30 minutes, and that should be when the potatoes are done at least, and we'll check the chicken then. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to take a second and do up a few of these dishes that I have. I suggest you do the same. It's a good way to keep the kitchen clean when you have a second. If anybody has any questions, now's a good time to ask. And Kat, I will actually show you the lemon now, if I have one. So I actually only have 1/3 of a lemon, but it's the same idea. Thank you, Wendy. This is a beautiful cutting board. This is from my sponsor, one of my sponsors, Ashworks Cutting Boards. You can go to ashworks.ca. I want to make sure I have that right. Yes, ashworks.ca, and check it out, or you can check them out at the farmer's market. They have a whole line of really beautiful stuff. Okay, so normally when I have a lemon, imagine this is a whole lemon, most people will cut it through the middle and then they'll try and juice it like that. Problem is when you do that, you're fighting the natural structure of the lemon. So if instead you cut it, so imagining that you would normally cut it across the equator, instead you're going to cut it north to south just off center. So this is the top, bottom would be here, and you're just off center. And the reason you do this is because you end up getting way more juice. See? Because you're actually working with the natural structure of the lemon instead of fighting against it. You waste way less. Okay, so that's the lemon trick. So, this is obviously the very first episode of the show, but I do plan on doing it every Monday. You're welcome, Kat. And so if anybody has anything specific that you want to learn, or any kind of dish that you want to make that you think would appeal to kind of a wide range of people, then by all means let me know, and I will put it in the roster and we can all learn it together. Because this is really about you guys and getting you to cook. So whatever you want to learn, let me know, and I'll put together a class for it. Does that sound good? I hope so. So Wendy, on Wednesday I release the list of ingredients and what we're cooking. So I did last Wednesday, and then this Wednesday I will release that again. Ryan, it's funny you say that. I actually have a duck in my fridge right now, in my freezer. Problem is, a duck is fairly expensive. The only reason that I have one is because they were on sale and I got it for like $10. Yeah, Wendy, so just check on Wednesday on my Facebook page right here, and there will be a whole list of ingredients. You got it. But Ryan, definitely, I'm going to be cooking that duck probably next week, and it will be all over my Facebook page and my Instagram. And if you have any specific questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Yeah, okay, I'm going to do 4 dishes, and then we'll get going. So again, any questions at all, please feel free to ask. Also, is your guys' kitchen as hot as mine is right now? Because it is really hot in here. Okay, just like that, dishes are done, kitchen is clean, which is perfect. Well, you're lucky, Donnie. I do not have a nice breeze in here. So I don't know if you guys are getting the same thing that I'm getting, but my potatoes, you can kind of hear them. They're kind of like going, which means that they're cooking, which is really nice. Okay, so we have probably about half an hour, probably a little bit more than that. But we might as well get started on our salad. So we're going to make a really, really basic salad dressing from scratch. And it's just a very basic vinaigrette. So what we're going to do is we're going to mix Dijon mustard. You could use mustard powder. You could use prepared yellow mustard, whatever you want. We're going to use Dijon though. We're going to use a bit of honey, some red wine vinegar, and then oil. So that's the basic premise for pretty much 90% of salad dressings. And the other 10% are made in the same way, but with egg instead of mustard. So egg and mustard have something in them called lecithin. If you've ever read the label on almost anything in the grocery store, it has soy lecithin on it, which is a synthetic version of lecithin. And what lecithin does is it binds the vinegar and the oil, or the liquid and the oil, whatever you want, and makes a proper emulsion, right? So that's why we're going to put the mustard in there, because it's going to bind it. The honey is going to be for sweetness, and the vinegar is to make it a vinaigrette. You need that acidity. So generally when you make a vinaigrette, it is a 3-to-1 ratio. Sometimes you can go 4-to-1, but 3-to-1 is generally the best. And so that's 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. So we're going to go like about 2 tablespoons of vinegar. Actually, we'll go a 1/4 cup of vinegar. We'll just make it easy, and then we'll do 3/4 of a cup of oil. Now, when you get practiced at this, you can make a vinaigrette that is very, very thick and creamy just by continuing to add oil. And the danger is the more oil you add, the more risk there is of the vinaigrette separating, meaning that you break the emulsion, meaning that the oil and the vinegar separate, and then you get those 2 layers on your jar, now, or in your container. Now, if you do this properly, the emulsion will last for a very, very long time. Wendy says she can't stand ratios. I'm sorry, Wendy, but this is a really important one. And it's the only one you have to remember, and it's really easy. So if you do this properly, your vinaigrette will stay together. It will hold that emulsion for a very, very long time, like weeks and weeks and weeks. And because there's nothing in this vinaigrette that's going to go bad, this will last in your fridge for, I'll say a month, but probably much longer. And if it does start to separate, you can just shake it back together or give it a quick whisk. Okay? So all we need is a whisk and kind of a medium-sized bowl. I'll use the one I use for potatoes. Now, I recommend that you take either a paper towel or a dish rag or something that's damp. Okay? We're going to put that under our bowl. So this is not a beer. Just realized it really looks like a beer. This is actually raspberry vanilla mint green iced tea from Tea North, who was very nice and sponsored this show along with Ashworks Cutting Boards. So thank you very much. And you can find that at Sobeys, which is very, very nice. So we're just going to put a damp towel under our bowl, and that's just going to prevent it from slipping around, because we're going to need to whisk as we add the oil. So it's a two-handed job, so you can't hold the bowl. Okay? So first thing we're going to do is about a teaspoon of Dijon vinegar, or Dijon mustard, sorry. And again, you can use powdered mustard, but we're going to use Dijon today. Okay. Now we're going to go about a tablespoon of honey. And you can use maple syrup in this, you could use honey, any kind of sweetener you want, really. Generally, you do want to put like a touch of sweetener in a vinaigrette, because they can be very, very acidic. If you're using something like a balsamic vinegar or even a cider vinegar, you may not need to, because they're already very sweet, but the wine vinegar is pretty acidic. So we have our mustard and our honey in there, and we're just going to add about a quarter cup of vinegar. You can measure it if you want. I'm just going to eyeball it. Okay. Now, we're going to keep this very simple. We're not going to add any herbs or anything, but you easily could add garlic or chopped herbs or whatever you want, like anything like that. But we're not going to do that. So, first thing we're going to do is mix up our honey, our vinegar, and our mustard. We just want to make sure it's all really well incorporated. So it doesn't look like the prettiest thing in the world right now, but it's going to look better, I promise. So again, if you have an olive oil, and you can give it a little taste. If it tastes bitter, I don't recommend using it. Use a canola oil or any other kind of neutral flavored oil, because it will make your whole vinaigrette bitter. I'm going to use olive oil because, again, this isn't bitter and it's what I have. But give your olive oil a quick taste. If it tastes bitter, I would recommend not using it. Okay? So, what we're going to do, and it's very, very important that you do this very slowly and take your time with it. We're going to add, as we're whisking, just literally like 3 or 4 drops of oil. And then we're going to whisk that in. So when you look at your bowl, after that initial addition of oil and you whisk it in, you should not see like oil on the surface. It should be kind of incorporated in. And if it's not, whisk it until it is. And then we'll add a little bit more. And again, you can put this in a measuring cup so you know exactly how much to add. But you'll be able to tell by the consistency how done it is and where you want it. So again, we're just going to mix that in, and then we'll add a bit more. And as you build this emulsion, you can add more and more oil to it. But in the beginning, you want to start nice and slow. And again, this is how you make like 90% of dressing. So once you figure this out and you get it like down, you can sub different kinds of vinegar. So again, you use cider vinegar or flavored vinegar like a tarragon vinegar or something like that, or raspberry vinegar, sherry vinegar, whatever you want. You can use flavored oils as well, like avocado oil or just an herb infused oil. You can use different mustards. There's so many different things you can do with this. You can add berries to it. So once you get this basic premise down, it really opens up the door to making your own salad dressings. And the first time you do it, it's probably going to take a little longer than it normally would. But once you're practiced at this, you can do it in under 2 minutes. Really. And it's so much better. You can control the flavor of it. You can control how acidic it is. There's no preservatives in it, which is important. So again, we're just going to whisk nice and slowly. And just keep adding oil in. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm sorry if I missed some. I'm just trying to catch them all. Now, if you notice that there's oil pooling around the edge of your bowl, stop adding and just mix that in. You don't want that to build up. And the texture of your vinaigrette is really up to you. I like a really creamy vinaigrette. You might like it a little thinner. So just keep adding oil and whisking it in until you see a consistency that you like. Give it a taste. See what you think. Or just follow the ratio. Okay, so mine's already starting to get thick. It's not like super thick and creamy, but it coats the spoon, which is what you want. And it's nice, but it's still pretty acidic, so I'm going to keep adding some oil to it. And if it coats the spoon, it's going to coat the spinach, right? Which is what we're looking for. Oh, yep. Jane, I don't know if you can see this. I have a delay on my camera, so I can't really tell. But it's pretty thick. I don't really know how to describe it, so I'm sorry. It's about the consistency of heavy cream, I would say. Of like whipping cream before you whip it. That's what I would say. Oh, you saw it. Okay. But again, you can keep adding oil to it to get it nice and thick. But I'm probably going to stop there. You got it, Jane. No problem. Yeah, so I'm going to stop there. So, hopefully you can see this. So it's still fairly runny, but it completely coats the spoon. Right? Now again, we can keep going with this. But where spinach is I have baby spinach. I'm not sure if you guys got baby or not. But baby spinach is not the hardiest of green. So if we make the dressing too thick, it's just going to crush it. So I'm going to leave it there. And it tastes good. The acidity is nice. It's not too overpowering. There's a touch of sweetness to it. So that's perfect. I'm going to set that aside. Okay. So our potatoes are pretty close. I'm just going to take those out for a sec to check them. Yeah, so they're getting close. You can probably stab them with a fork. Yeah, so mine are pretty much cooked through, but I'm going to put them back because I want them to get a little bit crispy. Maybe because the chicken's still going to be a little while. Okay. So, in the meantime, we can chop up our apple and stuff like that. So I just have Granny Smith apple. I'm sure some of you do too. It's already washed. So I'm just going to cut it up. So, trick here is we're going to cut off center. We're just going to cut off about a quarter. We're going to flatten the apple. And that's going to give us a nice cutting surface, and then we'll cut that as well. And we just want these in nice even pieces. We don't want them too big. So when you bite into the salad, you want to be able to stab the apple with your fork. So you also don't want it too small. So I'm going to go about a 1 centimeter dice, centimeter and a half or so. That should be pretty good. And I'm going to put this right in my vinaigrette. And what that's going to do is the apple is going to absorb some of the vinegar. It's going to prevent the apple from going brown. And some of the liquid is going to be drawn out of the apple by the vinegar. And it's going to flavor the vinaigrette a little bit. Excuse me. So we'll just do that. And all I'm doing here, I'll show you with this one, is I'm just slicing. And then kind of pinching with my finger to make sure the apple doesn't go away. A lot of people have a tendency to just put your knife on top and push down. It's much easier if you glide your knife and just let it slide through. You know, it takes way less force. It's makes a better cut. You don't get like bruises and mushy apple. And that's pretty much true of anything. You very rarely want to push your knife down. Generally, you want to slide it. Okay, so I'm just going to finish slicing our apple. And it kind of looks, because of the color, it kind of looks like apples in caramel sauce. I don't know if you can see that or not, which I think looks really nice. So I'm going to give that a nice little mix. And just make sure you coat the apples completely so that they don't oxidize. You can see that. And now this last little bit of apple, we'll just kind of trim the edges off so we don't waste any of it. Just like that, because why waste when we don't have it? Perfect. Just cut that up. So this salad, again, I kept it very simple. We're just putting the apples, the dressing, and some almonds with the spinach. Dried cranberries or raisins or something like that would be really good in this. You could add some sunflower seeds or anything like that along with the almonds. Anything like that would be really, really good in this. But I wanted to keep it nice and simple. And finishing it with a little bit of Parmesan cheese, you can never go wrong, I think. Okay, so that stuff is still going to be a little while. So again, if you have any questions, now would be a good time to ask. I hope that your houses are starting to smell as good as mine is. Yeah. Now we wait. This is, yeah, we can definitely toast them. That's a good idea. So we'll get just a frying pan. So I'm just going to use a stainless steel pan. I don't recommend using a cast iron pan for this. So we're going to toast the almonds at Kat's recommendation. Thank you, Kat, for helping me work through some timing issues. So all we're going to do is heat our pan up over medium-high heat. Make sure it gets nice and hot before you put the almonds in the pan. And I just have nice slivered almonds here. Whatever you have, it'll work. It's no problem at all. So we're not going to put any oil in the pan, and that's why I don't want to use any cast iron, because it already has the oil, kind of in it if you're seasoning it properly. And you want to do this in a dry pan. I'm just going to heat up a cast iron pan. If you have a stainless, or if you have like a non-stick pan or a Teflon pan, that's fine too. I'm just going to use the stainless steel one. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Anything? No questions, really. I guess this is why people don't do live cooking shows, because then you end up waiting for stuff to go in the oven. But next time, I guess we'll do a dessert to fill this time with. That'll be perfect. So we're just waiting for our pans to heat up. So yeah, again, if anybody has any recommendations or anything that they would like to learn that they think like a lot of people would like to learn, or that would appeal to kind of a broader audience, then please, by all means, recommend it. You can send me some messages privately, or you can send them here, whatever you'd like. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take a bunch of recommendations, and then I'll let all you guys vote on it, and then we'll put an episode together based on what you decide on the vote. I think that'd be kind of cool. Okay, so my pan's getting warm. I'm just going to pop the almonds in here. You don't want it to be smoking hot. I find it better if you don't start them in a cold pan. I find that you get a more kind of uniform toast on them this way. And you can do this in the oven, but I find that you have to watch them very, very closely, and you always get around the edges, they get burnt. I find that this is a much more reliable technique. We can do some cheesecake in. Kat, we can definitely do a prime rib roast. I would love that. And yeah, Wendy, I think doing a dessert is a good idea, and I was going to do one, but I also want to kind of keep these on a budget so they're accessible to a lot of people. But I think what I'll do is I'll build kind of cheap desserts into this. Not cheap, but affordable desserts into this. Well, thanks, Peter. I really appreciate that. Donna, try not to use a cast iron pan to do this. I was talking and my almonds got a little too toasty. Try not to use a cast iron pan to do this, just because of the oil that's in it. You want to use a dry pan. If cast iron's all you have, I would recommend actually doing them in the oven on a sheet pan. And you just want it kind of heated over like a medium heat. And that's all you're going to do, right? Is just kind of toss them. I know that seems intimidating, but all I'm doing is pushing them to the front of my pan, and then just kind of pushing and stopping, right? So you're not following the pan, you're just pushing and stopping. And then you're letting the curve of the pan, perfect. You're letting the curve of the pan do the work. So you're not going like this, you're just pushing forward and stopping, and then the natural curve, right? So have something to get your almonds out of the pan, because they will continue to cook. And mine did get a little bit dark because I was talking and got distracted, but that's okay. So now we have nice toasted almonds. I mean, that was really quick, right? And they're nice and kind of evenly toasted, except for these few burnt ones. And that's okay. We'll just pick those out. And they're very hot. Probably don't pick them out with your bare hands. Salmon is a good one too. Yeah, and I'm gonna try. Excuse me. I'm gonna try and mix them up. So, excuse me. Just a little piece of burning almond in my throat. I'm gonna try and mix it up so that this week we'll do chicken. Next week we might do fish, and then the next week we might do like a vegetarian dish or something like that. That's very true, Wendy. Yeah, so I'm going to try and keep it so that it's not the same thing over and over and over. But that's where you guys come in, because again, this is about you, not about me. So whatever you want to learn, we'll put together some stuff. And salmon's a good one. I think maybe we'll do some with salmon next week. How's that sound? Yeah. So the potatoes are pretty much done. They can be a little bit crispier. And the chicken still needs a little bit more time, probably another 15 minutes or so. Which I know seems like a long time, but that's okay. Now the nice thing about these potatoes is you can do them ahead of time. Yeah, we can do a keto meal. Honestly, I'm not... When it comes to like specific dietary things, I'm not great at that stuff. I've done a lot of keto stuff in the past, but it's definitely. I think that there are other places where you could find more benefit than here with keto stuff. As much as it pains me to say that, but I think it's true. But if you need like specific advice about keto stuff, please feel free to message me, and I'll help you as best I can. So the nice thing about these potatoes is that you can do them ahead of time. So if you're having like a dinner party or something, you can do these a day ahead. You know, bring them up to the boil, drain them, roast them in the oven, cool them down, pop them in the fridge, and then they only take another 10 minutes in the oven to heat back up, and they'll get nice and crispy again. They're really great. And I mean, you can have leftovers and use them in a hash for breakfast. So many different uses just from this one thing. Yeah, it works really well. And actually, if you guys haven't kind of checked out my Instagram and stuff, you probably haven't seen my French fries. So I do an oven-baked French fry that's similar to this technique. You take potatoes, you cut them up like you would for French fries, and then you boil them, but you boil them more so that they're almost falling apart. You drain them, you let them steam, then you toss them with olive oil, and you roast them on high heat, and you get super, super crispy and soft in the middle. They're really delicious. So this technique works for a few different things, not just this. But again, these are fantastic for making a head. Just take them to this point, and then you can just pop them back in the oven for another 10 minutes, and they're good to go. And yeah, moderation is definitely the key with just about everything. Although I was doing a cooking class in Greenwood the other day for this couple who were keto. Their kids bought a cooking class for them, so I went down there. And they had these very cool like cheese things that they had. So they took like an herb Havarti or something, and they cut it up into small pieces, and put it on a sheet pan, and they put it on top of the fridge and let it dry out for like 2 or 3 days, and then they baked it. They got super crispy, and they were just like these little cheese snacks. They were really cool, and I'd never seen that before. So there's always something to learn from everything, I think, is the takeaway there. Yeah, so chicken's going to be a bit, but the potatoes are good for snacking, even though they're really hot. That was a bad idea. So any other questions while we're waiting? Yeah, I don't know. I really appreciate you guys taking part in this. I'm super happy that you're all here. Yes, this will be available. I'll post this later. So I think the live feed will be there think you'll be able to watch that back and forth. And then I'll probably cut this video down into smaller chunks and put that on my Instagram and stuff as well. I love smashed potatoes too, Wendy. They're really delicious. Oh, thank you, Kat. I really appreciate that. It's starting to smell really, really good though, eh? You're welcome. Like I said, this is for you, so anything I can do to help you guys cook is my pleasure. And as always, like, if you have any questions ever, you can contact me on Facebook or on Instagram or wherever, and I am happy to talk about food. Now, if you take a second and look at your apples that have been sitting here for probably about 5 minutes, and they're not brown, right, because of all that acid in the vinaigrette, and if you taste one, you can kind of see that that vinegar flavor has kind of penetrated the whole apple a little, but it's not too overpowering. Yes, Kat. So Kat just asked if when dressing salad, you do it right before serving to avoid wilting the leaves, and that's exactly right. That's why I'm not putting the salad together right now. If we did the vinegar in the dressing, it's essentially going to cook the spinach, and it's just gonna go to crap. Yes, I live in Halifax. Well, I live in Dartmouth, but yes. And I am a personal chef, so I do private cooking lessons and dinner parties and stuff like that. And this, yeah, which I like a lot. I feel like I should have made this meal a little more complicated now that I'm just kind of waiting and the kitchen's clean, food's almost ready. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess I should take a second to talk about my sponsors. So this board, and that board back there, is from Ashworks Cutting Boards. Again, you can find them at the farmer's market. Yeah, the almonds are really good. Apples are good to snack on too. And they make these beautiful, beautiful ingrain boards. And they have a really nice story behind it too. It's just a nice family business. And they were nice enough to supply this board for me and that one as well. So thank you very much, guys, and you should definitely check them out. And then Tea North is a local tea company. It's a very, very small company, but they're doing big things and starting to make some moves. They're in Sobeys, they're starting to get in other places as well. It's a really nice local product, and it's all organic as well. So close. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting pretty hungry. You can find the tea. It's in Sobeys, usually in the. I think it's only in Sobeys in Halifax right now, but it's in the kind of health food section where all the gluten-free stuff is and everything. That's where you'll find it. And then there's other places too, but I'm not exactly sure where. And they're going to start selling online as well. They're moving to cans, and they're going to start selling online. I don't know how much of this I'm supposed to tell you, but I told you that much. Another apple. Oh, nice. Where are you, Wendy? Are you in Cape Breton or in Yarmouth? Yeah, Steve, it's real good. It really is. I would recommend it highly. Oh, nice. Yeah, Yarmouth is nice. It was down there a couple of years ago. But this is what's good about this is that you can do a cooking class with me from wherever you are. You don't have to worry about me traveling to you, which is nice. So, any other questions about anything, food in general, or anything at all, since we got some time to kill? This is good though, because we're working at some kinks. This is the first episode. So now I know we need some time fillers for the next ones. Actually, you know what? I have something I can show you. So, if you still have some garlic left, I'm just going to take 2 cloves. Really? You're coming from Saskatchewan? That's awesome. What time? Was it like 4 in Saskatchewan right now? Can I name the 5 best kitchen utensils everyone should have? Yes, I can. A good knife. Don't mistake that for an expensive knife, just a good knife. You'll see a lot of people will spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a knife that they use twice a week. Don't do that. Just go out, buy like a decent knife, and by decent I mean it has a solid handle on it. The knife itself is, so I actually have some crappy knives, so you can hear kind of the difference. This one, the handle stops here, and the blade is just kind of attached to it, and then it's weighted. I've had 2 of these break. I bought these for my wife, which was stupid. I wouldn't do it again. They came in like a 6-pack or whatever. This is a Groman, they're local knives. This is like $120, but it'll last the rest of your life. Or you can go to kitchen supply stores like Big Eric's and get like a utility knife. It'll have like a yellow handle or a green and yellow handle. That's what we use in professional kitchens, and they last forever. And it's like a $30 knife. So a good knife, a good cutting board, a good vegetable peeler. I'm going to show you this actually. Hold on. So one of these are really good vegetable peelers. This is like $3, but it's called a speed peeler. It is much quicker than the other style, which I'm sure you're familiar with, like this. These are way, way quicker and way cheaper, and they last way longer. Like this is like a $25 peeler, and it sucks. This is a $3 peeler, and it's amazing. So a good peeler, a good knife, a good cutting board, something to sharpen your knife with. I just use a little tool. I'll get that for you too. Now, I just use a little tool like this. This is just a little camping knife sharpener. I use this, especially when I'm on the road, when I'm going to people's houses or whatever, just because it's quick, it's easy. And some people will say that you can't entirely control the angle, but as long as you keep the knife as straight as you can, it's fine. I mean, you don't need a knife that you can shave with, like you do in a professional kitchen. I wouldn't worry about it too much. And yes, cast iron is definitely it. I have 3 over there that I take out of my oven, and I have a really nice cast iron wok, so anything cast iron. So that's it, right? We have knife, peeler, cutting board, sharpener, cast iron. Those to me are the 5 most important things in the kitchen. Okay, so I'm going to show you a trick while we're waiting for our chicken. And I need some more salt. Hold on. I am not prepared at all. I ran out of salt in that dish, so I have to grab this. So what we're going to do is, just like before, we're going to cut the end off our garlic. Okay? We're going to crush it. Again, we're going to push, we're not going to slap it. Okay, my compost is usually over there. And now we're just going to give it a really quick rough chop. Just like that. And now, we're going to put some salt on it. And you want a decent amount of salt. And it's definitely better to use a coarse salt, like kosher salt or sea salt, as opposed to like a really fine-grained table salt. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use the edge of our knife here, and it's going to act with the salt and the cutting board. It's going to act like an abrasive, and it's going to puree our garlic. Now the trick here is A, have the blade pointing away from you. Okay. B, don't start the knife in the middle of the pile of garlic. Start on the very edge that's closest towards you. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to keep your blade flat as you can. You're going to have the tip on the board, and you're just going to rock it like this. And it works best if your handle is hanging off the edge of your board. So it's just this kind of motion. There's very little pressure. and just start on the very closest edge of the mound of garlic to you and work your way in. And I know a lot of you probably have garlic presses, but once you get the hang of this, it's actually much quicker to do this than it is to clean a garlic press. So that was one pass. One more pass. And we'll go one more just for good measure. And then just like that, we have perfectly pureed garlic. Yeah, you can. That's a really good idea. Wendy said that she likes to do this, mix it with butter and stuff it under chicken skin, which is awesome. This is really good for putting in dressings or just cooking with in general, because then you don't get big chunks of garlic, which a lot of people don't like. Yeah, it works really well. Especially once you get the hang of it. Like, no, seriously, you can do that once you get the hang of it. And it's really just getting the right balance of salt and the right pressure. And then you don't have to worry about cleaning the stupid garlic press, which nobody likes to do. Okay, let's check our chicken here. With my nice old Ugg glove. First time I saw a commercial for this, I made fun of it like crazy. But then my mom bought me one years ago, and I love it. Which I really wish I did, but I do. Oh, that smells good. Smells really good. So I don't know if you guys can see that. I hope you can. It's starting to look really nice. Now, my legs are probably quite a bit smaller than yours, like I said before, but I think mine are done. So what I'm doing here is I'm touching the thigh. You may have heard before of how to check a steak with the finger trick. So what that is if you hold your hand open and just kind of loose, you don't stretch it or anything, and you poke your palm. That's generally what a rare steak would feel like. And this doesn't really work for tenderloins. It doesn't really work for ribeyes that much either. Really, this is for like a New York strip. So if you poke there with your hand open completely, that's what a rare steak feels like. And then you pinch your thumb and your index finger. That's what a medium rare steak feels like. And then you progress to medium, mid-well, and well. Right? So when you put your pinky and your thumb together and you push on that fat part of your thumb, your chicken wing there, your drumstick, it should be very firm. That's what you want this to feel like. And you want that to feel like that right on the thigh. Okay? So that's one way to check the chicken. The other way is obviously cut it. I don't generally like to cut into chicken because all the juices come out, but where this is cooking in liquid, it's not going to be that big of a deal. I'm just going to take one chicken leg. I'm going to cut from the bottom because I don't want to cut through the skin. So it looks cooked. I'm going to say it's cooked, but I'm going to put it in for another 3 or 4 minutes because it's cooked, but it's not quite coming away from the bone as easy as I would like. So the reason, Wendy, I do sometimes use a thermometer, but I find for something this small, especially where these legs are especially small, the thermometer doesn't actually give you a really good read because you're just not in the meat deep enough. Thanks, Peter. But again, I would, with chicken especially, I would use that as like part of a two-step check. I wouldn't use that as its only check. Just because you want to be sure. So again, these are cooked, but I'm going to pop them back in the oven for another 3 minutes or so, just so that they kind of pull away from the bone a little easier and maybe get a little crisper on top. Now yours, again, are probably a little quicker than mine, so they're probably going to need a little bit longer, but that's okay. So I'm just going to get rid of this garlic. And that I just dropped on the floor, and my cat's going to eat it. Yeah. So, in the meantime, I'm going to start kind of putting this meal together. So, when I'm cooking for my family or friends or whatever, it's always easier to do like a plated or like a family style dinner where you just kind of put the food all out and let them plate it themselves. But I'm not going to do that because it's just me. My wife's at work. It's just me here. And then you have a whole bunch of dishes. Like, yeah, you can just get them to come and grab it. That's fine. But I'm actually just going to plate my meal. So I'll show you like kind of a nice way to plate it. And you can do whatever you want with yours. But yeah, so I'm going to plate mine. I'm just going to grab a plate, just a nice blue one. And I'm actually going to pop these potatoes back in the oven just for a few minutes. Just get a little extra heat on them. And yeah, Kat, I saw that you tried a potato. They're really good. I love them. So I'm just going to take a nice bunch of spinach. And I find in the summer, especially like when you have all these fresh greens, why not use them? Like, why bother cooking green beans or whatever? Well, I mean, if you can get fresh ones, yes. But I'm gonna say that I want to try to eat more salad. It's definitely something that I'm working on, is having more salad with my meals. That's very true, Wendy. She said that you always eat with your eyes first. And so for me in the summer, I think it's good, you use what's in season, so why not salad? So I'm going to, actually I'll dress it first. Now I'm going to dress this. The chicken's going to be ready pretty quickly here, so I think it'll be okay. And it really does, look like caramel sauce with the apples. I hope you can see that. The apples aren't brown. The dressing is holding together very nicely, which is exactly what we want. And again, a little bit of dried cranberry or something like that, dried raisins, some sunflower seeds, whatever you want in here. A little bit of the dressing, and you can toss this, but I find the baby spinach will just kind of go crap if you do, so I prefer to just put the dressing on the top. Some almonds. And we'll just bunch that up nice and tight. Okay. Perfect. So I'm just going to take some of these potatoes, and you can see mine. And these are like a purple fingerling. Oh, it's these are like a purple fingerling. That's why they're that color. That's fine. So they have a nice kind of crispiness to them. I'm really excited. I hope you can see that. So just put some on the plate. Just a couple. You don't want too much potato, even though they're really good, and it's hard not to just eat a whole bunch of them. I'm going to take our chicken legs. And now we have the garlic and the onions in here. I'm just going to take the chicken out of here. Move this stuff around. So what we're going to do really quickly is we have all this beautiful liquid, we don't want to waste it, right? So what we're going to do, as you can see these cloves of garlic, they're really soft. You can just mash them up. And we could strain this off and boil it down and everything, but I don't really see the need for that. Because that flavor, and if you give it a little taste, the flavor is beautiful. So you don't really want to concentrate it anymore. So all I'm going to do is take a little bit of this garlic and some of the onions, and just pour that right over my chicken. Take a little sprig of this thyme. And there we go. And we have our chicken that was poached, well, kind of roast, poached, braised in chicken stock and lemon juice. We have our beautiful roasted potatoes and our lovely spinach salad. I'm excited. So, Wendy says you could use pear, which would be nice, and yeah, you definitely could. Pear would be really nice in here. That'd be delicious. And this, so what you're going to notice when you eat this is there's between the salad and the potatoes and the chicken and everything, there's a really nice kind of fresh, summery flavor, which is what I was going for. And again, your chicken might not be ready yet, but that's okay. Just obviously wait until it is. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I hope that you got something out of this and learned something. And I'm really excited that some of you are actually getting to eat along with me. And I think this is a beautiful meal. I'm excited to eat it. Yes, and so if anybody has any ideas, I think we will do salmon next week. I'll put together something with that. If you have any other ideas, you can leave them. Thank you, Wendy. I really appreciate that. You can leave them either in the comments of this video. You can message me. You can just leave them on any of my other posts. Yeah. So does anybody have any questions before I go? Thank you, Kat. Oh, and if I would really love to see what you guys made, so if you wouldn't mind sharing some pictures, you can either tag me on Instagram at Chef Ben Kelly or share them right here on Facebook. I would love to see what you guys made. Thank you. I'll see you next week.